Okay, we are live. Welcome, everyone. It's a very exciting meeting we have today with Dr. Karol Kulasinski. But before we start, let me ask you a question. Are your employees sharing sensitive data with artificial intelligence chatbots such as ChatGPT? And if so, who is responsible for the sensitive data and personal data leaks or data losses? I have invited for this conversation Dr. Karol Kulasinski. He is the co-founder of Fractile. I will give Karol an opportunity to introduce himself. But first of all, let me explain why we chose this topic today. So, new findings discovered by a cybersecurity firm called Netscope show that for every 10,000 enterprise users, an enterprise organization is experiencing approximately 183 incidents of sensitive data sharing to the ChatGPT app per month. Hi, I'm Avocat Olivia Marcu-Iordanescu. I'm an international attorney and I partner with high-performing technology scale-ups to streamline their legal processes and compliance so they get 8+ figure funding fast and efficiently without company valuation issues or legal bottlenecks. Every week, I share valuable legal and compliance insights for tech scale-ups. Join the conversation on transforming the bureaucratic landscape for businesses like you by following me on LinkedIn. And like I said today, I have invited Dr. Karol Kulasinski. He is a highly accomplished senior data scientist with over 14 years of experience, holding a PhD in computational physics. He is proficient in over 20 computer languages and frameworks and has a rich portfolio of research papers, data projects, and conference participations. His educational background includes an ongoing MBA from Kulasinski University and a postdoc at University of California, Berkeley. So really, it's an honor and a privilege to have Karol with us today, especially on the topic of data leaks for enterprises, which I think is really a hot topic today because of the challenges, the concerns, the legal risk and the business risk, and actually the threat to society that such data leaks can bring forward. And so I couldn't have thought of anyone else to have here today with me but Karol. Welcome, Karol.
Thank you, Olivia, for such a warm introduction. I feel already better, and it's my pleasure to be here.
Yeah, so great to have you here. And I'd like to give you the floor, so to say, the virtual floor, and get us started a little bit on the challenges that enterprises face when using large language models in day-to-day operations.
Sure. Yeah, this is a very interesting topic, a very broad one, and I'm not sure if I can speak of all enterprises, although we are trying to talk to as many companies as we can. But there is a great number of challenges that companies face when it comes to use large language models or LLMs, and this is actually quite domain dependent. However, I think there's a couple points that are common between companies, and these are most frequently, for example, the choice of a large language model. Initially, it was just ChatGPT, but currently we have many more models that are like increasingly appearing on the AI scene. But this is just the first challenge. There's a couple more. For example, the automation or the absence of automation in terms of employing large language models to do some repetitive work that often happens at companies, but also how to use their data. The company's data is quite often scattered across different databases, services and even forms in which like we keep the information files, right? Whether it's in a flat file or it's somewhere online or on the server or somewhere on a hard drive that is hidden in a drawer. So this is a bit of a data science problem, but it's never going to be less important. And now that we have the ability to use large language models with our data, like this question always will be quite the priority. And the final point that I see when we discuss with company representatives is compliance, and that is to say, can the employees actually use large language model in such a way that they share some PII data, so personally identifiable information, or some other sensitive information the company has. So first of all, do the employees know that this might be a problem? And second of all, do the managers know that their employees actually try to share with ChatGPT or another large language model some information that they are not supposed to? So these are the
absolutely. And I was just reading, in preparation of our conversation on the topic, it's no surprise that large companies such as Apple and Samsung and so on are already instituting bans on employees using such external chatbot artificial intelligence tools, and instead creating their own in-house proprietary artificial intelligence chatbot tools to support, at the end of the day, a need that exists inside the enterprise, inside the organizations. However, I think what the challenge is here is that not everyone is Apple and Samsung and can afford to develop such tools internally. And the concerns are real, like you said. First of all, not in most instances, and like we saw from the research that I just quoted in the beginning, in most instances, employees do not know what they are or are not allowed to do with personal data to this day. Companies don't know that the employees are or are not using these tools and what are the risks associated with that. There can be sensitive information in terms of financial information of the company, but also of contractual partners, of business partners. There can be confidential proprietary information. There can be intellectual property that is fed into such AI tools. And there can also be personal data, like you very well mentioned, of individuals that is fed into these tools. And so the question arises for those enterprises, for those companies that are not at a level where they can afford to develop their own proprietary AI tools that the employees can use internally, what is a solution to that? And I think this is obviously where Fractile comes into place. And now I give you the opportunity to explain a little bit about that and how it works.
Of course, yeah, that was a very, very important point that you raised. And you're right that not everybody can afford it, but there is like another question aside financial aspects, and this is the conscience. So are you even aware that this is a problem, right? And so ChatGPT and other generative AI, it's a relatively new invention, let's face it, although it has a huge popularity, but it's not even 1 year old yet. So for many, it's not quite obvious what happens with the data they send, let alone how does an LLM actually work.
Yeah.
So it's relatively easy to miss the subtle difference of what we can and what we should not send to a large language model. So coming to what we do and how we can solve this problem is at Fractile. Well, Fractile is an early stage startup. We started this year. Is trying to address some of these challenges the companies have around generative AI, mostly data security. So what we were doing is we build an enterprise platform/app that allow companies leverage the recent generative AI advancements on their internal data, but we do it in a fully secure manner. So we make sure that no PII information can leave the company's servers, whether it's on cloud or on premises. And this PII information, we make sure that it doesn't leave the servers in its natural form as it is, right? So our secret sauce is how we actually manipulate with the data so that we don't fully block the query before it's sent to ChatGPT or a similar service. And yet, when it comes back, the answer still has some meaning, and this information that comes back is enough for the user to fully engage with a large language model. And what we also do is we provide the capability to work on the company's internal data, whether it's in the form of plain documents, spreadsheets, or even entire databases. So we basically see the need of using large language models in enterprises and all the shortcomings that we discuss here of the existing solutions that are currently on the market. And we are trying to address these with our platform.
Yeah. And like I said, I think this comes at such a needed moment. By the way, congratulations. It takes courage to really be on the cutting edge of technology innovation and really take that challenge on and create a tool that actually makes a difference in this space. But raising the awareness, like you were saying, it's more about individuals understanding, employees, company owners, tech founders. It's first and foremost about understanding, there is personal data that I might be putting out there, whether it's my own, my employees, my business partners, and there comes some responsibility with that. And what am I doing in this process to ensure that it's not breached, it's not used in an unethical or illegal way? And here comes Fractile in and says, we know not everyone can afford to develop their own AI chatbot capabilities and use those that are existing in a secure manner, right? And we create this solution. Now, how did you come up with the idea? Because, of course, when I met you and you explained this to me, it all started to make sense, right? And I started reading more and more about it. But how did you come up with the idea?
Yeah, so I've been always an NLP absolute passionate, and I've been busy a few years ago in developing another product that allowed people to extract some unobvious associations in large text corpora. And then when ChatGPT arrived, me and my colleagues, we immediately saw an opportunity window in leveraging the power of chatting, of large language models on these private text documents. At the same time, in our environment, the business stakeholders were afraid to use ChatGPT due to potential data leaks. So it was obvious what is the problem and what can be the solution. And just to comment on your previous point, like people in companies, they like the employees, they are not aware of potential risks of using the external tools. And there are so many of these tools available online for example, OCR tools. So if they have some like confidential information that is scanned and they want to convert it to text, they like upload it to one of these OCR tools. And there's so many of them that no company can actually block all the IP addresses where the employees can do that. So it creates the risk. So if you don't have your own OCR tool, you cannot expect people to be conscious themselves and not to use the external ones. And this creates the risk of course, some vulnerable information leaking out of companies' possessions. And the same is with ChatGPT, right? So if you do not provide means to the employees to use chat in a safe way, they are going to use large language models anyway, but in just their own and potentially unsafe way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's worth mentioning here the Artificial Intelligence Act that the European Union has adopted. The members of the European Parliament have adopted the what is the so-called approved format, which is still to be discussed with the EU member states, but the desire by the European Commissioner is that by next year we will have something that is directly applicable within the European Union. And why I think this is important is because it establishes compliance obligations, not just for developers of artificial intelligence tools, but also for deployers, for distributors of such tools, and for users of the artificial intelligence tools. And it brings in a risk-based approach, right? Which is not new. We've seen this before. We've seen this with the General Data Protection Regulation, and companies will really need to do a self-assessment and start looking into, okay, what is the level of protection that I need to implement in order to be compliant with the new rules. Now, I think this becomes relevant also because it doesn't only apply to European Union companies, but also to companies and providers and deployers from outside of the European Union. So it will have an extraterritorial effect. And its applicability becomes really relevant also for OpenAI and large providers that are coming from outside of the EU. And at some point, you have all these regulations and norms and rules, and companies have to be compliant with them. But I think it also comes to address what you were saying regarding individuals, employees, and raising the awareness around, look, does this tool that I'm using right now, does it have XYZ so that I am, protected enough in using the tool? And is it advisable? Is it okay for me to go forward? But I think beyond that, what companies can do and what Fractile is also doing, beyond using tools that can provide a more secure framework of using such large language models, is really implementing policies and procedures and educating the employees. So beyond having, the paperwork, the data security policies and procedures, it's really vital that companies train their employees. And I don't mean just operations. I mean also top management, right? It has to be a top-down approach and across the organization, something that becomes like a culture, so to say, for any enterprise. I know you mentioned your co-founder, and also if you'd like to share a little bit about the team, how did you come about together? And also, I'm very interested in learning about what challenges you are facing as a startup. Yeah, since you mentioned that you just started in the beginning of the year. And
Yes, that's correct.
yeah, so what can you share from your experience with other founders, that will be watching or listening to this, and are also in the tech, so to say?
Yeah. So coming back to the question of the team and the co-founders. So we are the two co-founders, me and my colleague Tomek, or Thomas. So I am more on the technical side, and Tomek is more the business guy and salesperson. So we complement each other quite well. We also have a couple more people on board. Most of them are the technical persons, because our solution is like technology intensive, so to speak. And a funny fact that I get a few ideas for startups, and I tried to develop startups in the past, and always started from talking to people, convincing people. And this time it was quite exceptional, because anyone I was talking to was like absolutely interested, and I can't think of anyone who would say no. It does not interest me. Some people might not have time, or like some other obstacles to join the team, but in principle, everybody was interested. So we didn't have hard time to found people who would be working on the solution with us. And you also asked about the current and future challenges a startup like ours can face. And actually, the two largest challenges that we need to tackle with on a daily basis, and I think other startups like ours would also agree, is that there's two of them. So first one is the constantly changing tech landscape, and the second one is kind of balancing between providing a generic versus a more customized solution. This one can actually be common for all startups. The first one, so the changing landscape is like in the past few years, we actually witness a breathtaking expansion of technology in terms of the AI that I have never seen in my life so far. So it's very difficult and it's very challenging to be on the same page with what's going on, and like read the news, adapt it to our vision of the product, and talk about it to the customers. You have to be always up to date. You cannot miss any news because if you do so, then the next day your client might ask you about this and that, and you cannot lose your credibility. So you have to be always up to date. So this is quite challenging, because when you have a vision and you have some plans that you foresee for the next few quarters or months, and then the next day a new technology comes in, and then you have to revise what you have planned for so long. So this is quite challenging. The second one was more about choosing the right path between for your product, whether it should be a generic one or a more customized solution, because we are actually a B2B company. So from although like the concept is quite clear and everybody is quite fond of it, however, every client has some specific needs that are quite specific to their domains, or for this company, or for a sector that they operate in. So what is the largest challenge here is to decide whether we want to stay more or less generic, or we want to go into some niche and to customize our solution even further.
Yeah, got it. Yeah, absolutely. I can really relate to the first part, but also to the second. I will explain a little bit. First of all, because even in the legal industry, you see that it has evolved so much just in the past year, half year, so to say. Like everything is transforming so fast because of the technology, and the innovative, so to say, spur right now is really incredible. Like there are so many legal tech solutions that are rising, and there is so much innovation here in the field that it makes a lot of us wonder about the future of the legal profession and so on. And then that relates, I can see how both of them are very related, like intimately related, because with that comes the question, do I stay a general services provider, a general counsel? I can talk from personal experience, right? I've been working for the past almost 70 years with large companies and entrepreneurs at different levels of their growth. And today, the question is more, do I stay a general counsel type of service for companies that has this ability to oversee things, to understand what are the risks, or do I go into a more niched area that I know is very much needed today, like artificial intelligence and technology and so on. And I think the choice is never easy. And what I found for myself, is it's all about the speed with which you are able to pivot. And I think we touched a little bit upon that when we were having, the preparatory conversation before the interview. And it took me a while to understand that. Like, you have to be really quick to feel the market, and that means being up to date with everything that is happening, and just to be able to serve your clients in the best way that you can at a given moment in time. I don't believe one size fits all, so to say, today. Yeah. So I have to ask, since I work with a lot of technology founders presently, which is in a way to say that I've niched myself, but I'm also bringing the general counsel experience into that to better serve technology founders. Funding or bootstrapping?
Yeah, so both have pros and cons. We actually started from bootstrapping. Probably everybody starts from bootstrapping, but for us, it was like strategy for the first few months. We haven't even thought of funding initially, because we thought that we need to first convince ourselves that what we are doing makes sense. We have to make sure that our product, our vision of a product, has a market fit. So before we do this homework, we didn't even think of going for funding. But we were trying to raise some rounds at the moment. But if you ask, like, what are the pros and cons of bootstrapping? So for us, bootstrapping, the most important thing is that you are pretty much independent. You are still dependent on your clients and the market, but you are independent in more, first of all, legal form, but also like financial aspects. And not having external funds gives you also a greater drive to generate some revenue. Gives you this boost, right? Because if you don't have this safety pillow that you can rely on. So you also go for optimization of the strategy of the product, what to do first, what to do next, because the time is moving on, and you have to keep up with the pace. And another aspect, a positive aspect of bootstrapping is that the people that are in the team aren't there for an instant reward in terms of financial reward, right? Because they sign up for a vision, for an idea, for other people in the team, and not necessarily to get your paycheck every month. Yeah, but there are also some cons, and this is obviously the higher risk because you have to use your own money. So you take the whole risk, and you don't share the risk with someone else. But also slower growth because if you bootstrap versus whether you have several $1 million on your account, it's obvious that money can significantly speed up the growth of your company. It doesn't have to, but most often is how it works. Yeah. On the other side, the funding is great because you can grow faster, like I said. But also there's some other benefits. That is, for example, networking. You have access to experts. You have access to other companies, startups, and put your potential clients on the market. But you also increase your credibility because someone has already invested in you. This means that you are a credible company, and it's worthwhile to even consider you as a customer. But also I think it's much easier getting people on board, right? Because there is so much people out there that cannot, survive without a paycheck. And also the market for tech people, for developers, it's so hot right now that it's very difficult to compete if you cannot offer anything but shares.
Yeah.
But the cons of funding, external funding, is that, well, first of all, it's time consuming. If you want to raise a round, you need to spend weeks, if not months, chasing after investors and working on your pitch deck, and all of these things make it, that you don't focus on actual product, on the market, on your clients. So this is a big disadvantage. But it also, like working with VCs, for example, can get you off track because you very often have to meet the expectations of investors, and they might have quite a different vision of the product that you have. And finally, there's the aspect of dilution. So of course, you're getting rid of a portion of your shares.
Yeah. Well, sounds like you already created like a strategy around that. I have to say, funding is not for everyone, right? It's just because it's available, it doesn't mean it's the best strategy for you at any given moment in time, in the lifetime of your startup. And it may be that now is not the right time. It may be that in 3 months you all of a sudden decide, we're gonna do this. But it's true, it's a very institutionalized process, I would say, that comes with a lot of, it requires something from the founders and the team. It requires understanding, what are some KPIs that they are looking at, what kind of expectations they can have, what kind of rights and obligations you as co-founders can negotiate in the process, what is okay to give into and what not, or better said, what is appropriate at a certain level of growth that you are in, right? And all of these things taken into consideration, yes, they take time. That's why I like to say that I help technology companies speed up this process and really go through it efficiently, because I've done it before with companies, and I know how it works, and I know what they look at in the due diligence process, in the negotiation. And it doesn't always have to be time consuming, and there's always this element of, I strongly believe, of finding the right investor for you at a given moment in time, and that's really the key. Yeah, what's next for you at Fractile? Because like I said in the beginning, I think you guys are really taking this market on where is much needed solution like Fractile. And so what are your plans going forward?
Yeah, so our solution, from the very beginning, we understood that the tool that we develop is global. I mean, it's not related to even not Poland or not even European Union. It's just global, because the problems are universal, so to speak. So it has before because the problems are universal. Our solution has so many use cases, and this is a good and a bad thing. So it's good because the market is very broad, but it's bad because, like you said, there is no one-size-fits-all solution. So from what we quickly understood is that we need to find the niches, the use cases where we can actually excel, and because we know that a single generic solution might be of little use, and what makes the great difference is those use cases or plugins or customizations that we can apply for certain companies or sectors. So for us, the next step is working with our first clients, learning from them, and trying to find those streams, those niches where our tool makes the largest difference.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much for doing this interview and sharing from your experience and also from Fractile. I think it's really interesting to watch and see your evolution. Not to put any pressure or anything, but I mean the data leaks, and all these challenges and concerns, not just from a security but also from a legal standpoint, is a field that is going to be evolving very much in the near future. And so, in how to say, in tandem, in parallel to your finding your your pathway and how you can best serve enterprises, it's going to, you're basically shaping the market. So from this point of view, I think it's going to be very interesting to watch what solutions arise in this space. I just, before we wrap up, I want to do a short summary about what we touched upon today. So thank you again, Karol Kulasinski, for being here today. We looked at the challenges that enterprises face when using large language models in day-to-day operations. What we mean by that is that employees today are all of a sudden faced with a wealth of artificial intelligence tools that they are using in the workplace. And the concern that was raised by the Fractile team, rightfully so, was that most of the people are not even aware that when sharing such sensitive information that may contain financial information, business partner information, commercial sensitive data, but also personal data, These can lead to serious data breaches and infringements of privacy and intellectual property rights. Since not all companies are like Apple and Samsung and can afford to develop their own proprietary in-house artificial intelligence tools such as ChatGPT to ensure the security of against such data losses, the question arose, and Karol and his co-founders saw the need towards how these enterprises can be protected. And that was the reason why I invited Karol today, because I found it very powerful that they are now building an enterprise software as a service solution that uses LLMs in a secure way. We also talked about the Artificial Intelligence Act and the fact that it will be applicable in the entire European Union and beyond to all companies that are developers or producers or deployers, but also to users of artificial intelligence. And that I think it's a good thing for all of us, including for the employees, in raising their awareness towards data breaches and data losses and things like that. And Karol also shared with us from his experience as a startup. And thank you again for being here. And if you have any final thoughts that you would like to share, this is the moment.
No, thank you, Olivia. It was a pleasure to talking with you. I think we've covered so much. I'm also curious what is going to happen in the next few months. So I'll be intrigued to come back to our interview within a year from now to see where are we.
Yeah, good point. Where can people find you, read more about Fractile, how to follow you, so to say?
Yeah, we have a LinkedIn page, both Fractile and me and my co-founder. But we also have a website, fractile.io, that we don't focus on right now so much because we want to build the best tool in the world, of course. So we have our priorities, but we hope to put some more information out there in the future.
Great. Thanks again for being here. Thank you everyone for watching us. Let us know if you have any questions about the tool that Fractile is developing, or any of the aspects we discussed today. Again, I'm Avocat Olivia Marcu-Iordanescu. I look forward to seeing you again next Thursday. I'm not going to divulge the theme yet, but stay tuned and follow me on LinkedIn. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.